This is Brian Denzer. I'm the data manager for the Hurricane Isaac Disaster Case Management Program. I'd like to demonstrate how to continue data entry on a new client record by recording basic demographic and disaster impact information in the Intake tab. Here's the Intake tab for our client. In this case, we're entering information for a client named Minnie Mouse. Click the Intake tab and notice that CAN is asking for basic demographic information, language and literacy, employment, household demographics, impact of disaster, and additional vulnerability risks. There are also disaster-related needs, and very important, the case priority level. Okay. Let's begin at the top. We'll work left to right in our workflow. This is information you should already have recorded in your intake form. In this case, we're saying that the ethnicity is not Hispanic or Latino. The race is American Indian or Alaska Native. We will indicate a tribal affiliation as self-identified by the client. The client has a disability. The marital relationship is separated. The client does speak English. In the preferred language list, we'll choose English, but the client may actually speak some other language as the preferred language. And if it weren't listed in the drop-down box, of course, you could type that language in here. The Literate and English drop-down is a question that is related more to the literacy of the client in English. If English is the primary language, can the client read and write in English? In this case, we're saying that the client has a literacy problem, so we'll say no. In the Literate and Preferred Language drop-down box, then you could select no, just to be consistent. And this client does not need literacy assistance or language assistance, so that you can just leave that box blank. The client is in fact fluent in English. In the employment information, you'll indicate the employment status. In this case, the client has said unemployed but looking. The education level completed is GED. And you might have some notes that you'd like to type in here. Maybe the client suffered from a previous disaster and might have some skill or experience. Maybe he has worked in a restaurant or something like that. That's not really a necessary field. In the memberships and affiliations, there is some specialized information that you'll want to fill out, and you'll find that in a guidance that has been sent out. Here we're looking to track how the client was referred to the program. And in fact, in this case, we'll indicate that the client's name came to the Isaac DCMP via a long-term recovery organization that had a list of clients that merited being contacted. So the wait list, the the client was on a wait list, an LTRO wait list, and was contacted by the Isaac DCMP. That's just one scenario. So you'll paste in that code as indicated in the waitlist tracking guidance. And you should have that document available to you, and if you don't, you can ask a data manager or a supervisor for it. In the household demographics here, we will choose that this household is a single, in this case a single female-headed household with a child. The number of adults is 1. The number of children is 1. The total in the household is 2. We did indicate that that Minnie has a disability, so it would be appropriate to say that a household member has a disability. And we can now move over to the impact of disaster field. Oh, and we also indicated that our client is in fact a pet owner. Now we're moving to another page in our intake packet. The household member evacuated from the disaster zone. The household suffered a loss of income. This was the immediate impact of the disaster. Household suffered loss of employment as a result of the disaster. Household suffered damage to the primary residence. The household was displaced from the primary residence. And I think that's all we can fill out right now. There are additional vulnerability risks that are listed in the intake form. So our client has medical needs and no health insurance, and has a disability. And let's see here. Okay, I think we are fine with what we've entered here. And let's move down. Okay, let's indicate some disaster-related needs. Oh wait, there's some more things on our form here. They don't align exactly the same, so just be careful of this. Suffered property damage and is under or uninsured. Geographically isolated. Socially or culturally isolated. Limited access to information. This would especially be the case if the client had limited access to a telephone or the internet. Limited access to transportation or reliant on public transportation. Recovering from a previous disaster. And there are some additional things on the intake form that I'm not finding here immediately, but we will go ahead and proceed. Disaster-related needs. Our client has indicated that she would like advocacy with benefits of some kind, advocacy with FEMA, needs clothing, needs help with child care, would like education or job training, needs help getting employment, has some basic need for services with her disability, would benefit from food or nutrition, and needs furniture. here would benefit from some medical assistance, needs help with repair or rebuild of the home. New to CAN is mold remediation if the house hasn't been cleaned up, transportation, and would like utility assistance. Okay, so here's a client with a lot of needs. You'll want to set the priority level. This is really important, critical in fact. We're going to set this as a tier level 4 client. You may want to speak to a supervisor about how to set that tier level, and there are in fact definitions that you should use and understand when setting the priority level for your client. So we've completed all the necessary information that the client has filled out or that the client has indicated. I will make note of one thing in particular. This field here, household displaced from primary residence, is not the same as this, household member evacuated from disaster zone. If the household was displaced, it means that the primary residence was destroyed to such an extent that it's uninhabitable. And if the client is not living in that residence, you want to make sure that you check this box. It is in fact a field that's audited for accuracy, so you do want to make sure you fill this out correctly. Now it is possible that your client was previously displaced and is not now displaced, so you would not want to check that box. It's also possible that your client is living in an uninhabitable property, and in that case you also would not need to check that box. There will be future guidance on how to record those special circumstances. For now, it's important to understand that what you're recording here is the current status of the client at intake. If that client says that he or she was displaced from the primary residence, you'll want to check that box. We're done now, and you'll want to submit this information so that it saves. If you don't click submit, your information isn't saved. So click submit, wait for confirmation. Okay, information successfully saved, and that completes this training on how to fill out the intake tab in CAN.